I've said it before and I'll say it again, now more than ever it is a good time to get into online horror because the wide variety of horror series that exist right now is really amazing. Pretty much anyone can find something that they would like personally, and there's no short quantity of it, whether it be something a little bit more wholesome, something a bit darker, maybe a few backroom series here and there. For me personally, I've gravitated towards this one horror series that was made by Mr. Smile because it made me feel something that I haven't felt in a long time when it came to online horror, which was very uncomfortable. Now granted, you can execute that sort of feeling in a number of different ways, and the more popular, or rather I should say the more infamous way, is through the artist, aka Urban Spooks' series, which is much more hardcore and a lot more graphic and a lot more controversial. Yet I still maintain the idea that if you're going to tell a shocking story, be it good or bad, you're allowed to. But if you're looking for something a little bit more subtle and something a little bit less graphic, then look no further than the channel of Mr. Friend, who at first glance I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with because he makes some pretty good, and I mean really good, megalophobic videos. A lot of his stuff you'll see on TikTok or maybe even on YouTube Shorts that deal with a lot of phobias, and they're all animated and they're incredibly well done and super unnerving. They're genuinely a treat to watch, and I highly recommend watching his channel or going to his TikTok, and all those links will be down in the description below. But the series that I wanted to focus on, as amazing as his shorts are the animated videos that he made that are more animated like as if they were stop motion videos. You know those classic ones that you'd see? You know, the ones that pop up around like Christmas time, you know, the one that has like Rudolph and, you know, Jack Frost and shit like that. Looks a lot like that, but has such a darker tone. The lighting is always a little bit darker than those series, and the colors that are chosen are very mute and drab. Not in a negative way, absolutely not. It's intentionally done that way to give off this sort of air of eeriness, like a false sense of security that you would be feeling watching this very cutely animated thing, but then suddenly some things go wrong. Things that are a little graphic, but in many ways very well done. But before we dive deep into Mr. Friend's short horror films, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy platform where therapists and clients can communicate and effectively get the most out of therapy. If you've ever felt stuck mentally or felt trapped in your own mind and you couldn't communicate it well, then BetterHelp can help you with that. As someone who has taken therapy in the past, I can tell you that it is very helpful. When I first met my therapist, they made me understand that the anxiety that I felt wasn't something that was out of my control. In fact, I was completely in control of it. Honestly, I always felt like a prisoner to my own mental health and that there was almost no escape from it. But that therapy session made me understand that I was in control of my own life, my own body, and my own mental health. And through those steps, I was able to recover and be a better person today. And trust me when I say that everyone can benefit from therapy. It doesn't just affect people with depression or anxiety, it affects pretty much everyone. You don't need a clinical mental health issue to seek help. And if you feel like it's too complicated, then don't worry. BetterHelp provides ways to make your experience that much better, such as a questionnaire that can easily help you find a therapist within a few days, and the ability to help you find another therapist if the one you're matched with isn't the right one for you. Plus, it's a much more affordable way to get therapy since nowadays the economy isn't really doing so well and a lot of people can't really afford it. And right now, BetterHelp is offering an even cheaper way to get therapy using my link in the description or by simply going to betterhelp.com/gooseboost. That'll get you 10% off your first month. Don't deny the help that you need, and don't think you're too strong for help. In fact, seeking out help proves that you are stronger and more courageous than you think. It shows that you're acknowledging that you can improve your mental health and you're taking those steps to do so. So again, use the link down below to get 10% off your first month and take those steps to improve your mental health and your overall quality of life. Thank you once again to BetterHelp for this sponsor. I will warn you that these topics and the 3 following shorts that I will be talking about are heavily focused on child abuse and kidnapping, as well as some graphic imagery here and there. So if you're not comfortable with that kind of imagery, I would advise perhaps watching this for yourself and judging it. And honestly, I would advise that for anyone. If you haven't seen these or you're not familiar with Mr. Friend's animations, please go down to the link below, watch these animated series. They're absolutely fantastic. seriously, I highly recommend them. But if you already watched them, let's go ahead and take a look at all 3 of these videos one by one, and I'll explain to you why I really like these over other more shocking animated horror series that I've seen. One thing I should note is that the animation style seems very heavily inspired by The Kid and the Camera, a well-known, very famous horror short film about a boy and, well, his camera. And man, if you haven't seen that one, I mean, I don't know what else I can add to it. It is fantastic. Everything, the whole topic, the symbolism, the story, the narrative, the way it's paced. Goodness gracious, it is one of my, if not my absolute favorite short horror film on YouTube right now. It is a wonderful watch, and it is incredibly uncomfortable and deals with pretty much the similar topics as the ones that Mr. Friend animates. So if you haven't watched that one, oh my god, please go ahead. But I always wondered if these shorts are inspired by that animation style, as that one did come out first and it's very, very similar, or if it's more heavily inspired by the Christmas stuff that I mentioned beforehand. I mean, either way, both of these definitely took their inspiration from that same source, but anyways, I just love these, so watch them. The first video is called Bad Boy Oliver, and it features a, well, kid named Oliver ready to visit his aunt and uncle. And one thing I really love is the attention to detail to the bus, which is all dingy and dirty, grimy. Really contrasts the design of Oliver, who's more colorful and cute. Subtle things like this are just wonderful, as they sort of forebode what's about to happen. It's a strange, this feeling of this narrator that sounds whimsical, and yet there's no whimsical music to accompany him. It's just nothing.
Here's your room, Oliver. I'm sorry, it's not much. We still haven't gotten round to redecorating yet.
We gotta look into Oliver's house, or rather his uncle and aunt's house, as he's going to spend the night with them. It looks normal enough. Both of them seem very normal, except for the lighting. It almost seems like some sort of weird spotlight is put on both of them, and they're extremely fucking tall. I mean, look at that chick. She's a fucking Amazon. And there's also that dark background behind them, and oh my god, and the eyes of the dad are just so weird. Oliver then closes the door behind them, and that shot of the door is held on for a long time with this droning, eerie sound in the background. A nice touch, showing that not everything is right. Oliver is then shown to his room, and this is where we meet Mr. Bobo, a very odd looking doll that apparently belonged to his father and his uncle, and he's given this weird explanation that sometimes Mr. Bobo, at least in their account, seemed like he could have moved. Oliver tries to sleep, but knowing that that thing is still there, looking at him, well, he finds it very difficult to sleep. Something's wrong. Something's off about that rat, or bear, or something, whatever it is. He eventually does go to sleep and wakes up playing with his favorite toy while his aunt and uncle are quote-unquote working in the basement. And this is when he discovers something very strange about Mr. Bobo.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bobo. Please don't be mad. Huh? What's that? I see you've hurt Mr. Bobo, Oliver. That's a bad boy. Uncle Charles, why is there a camera in Mr. Bobo? If you'd have just played quietly and been a good boy, I wouldn't have to do this. Uncle Charles?
And now you see why this animation makes me incredibly uncomfortable, but it's done very, very well, and in a way that I feel like won't really piss off that many people, even though I'd argue that it's still pretty much, if not equal to as bad as said other series. But regardless of this, it's all the way it's presented, right? It's not necessarily the fact that it's super gory, super over the top, and in many ways it is very, very presentable too, because it is just showing you what's happening. It is a very simply animated thing that has more to it than, you know, over the top descriptions of anything. You're given what you need to know, instead of shown every gratuitous detail to a boring extent. Speaking of details, by the way, did you notice that Mr. Bobo actually is cam 6? See, in his perspective, on the bottom left, it says camera 6. That implies that there are other cameras within the house that have been recording Oliver. And it's been recording him ever since he stepped foot into his uncle and aunt's house. As we can see on the bottom right, it's been recording for 22 hours. Which explains why in the middle of the night, Mr. Bobo just seemingly moved. It's because either the aunt or uncle came into the room and replaced the batteries. As you can see on the top right, it's only a quarter of a way finished, when in reality, if this has been recording for 22 hours, it has likely been replaced with a new battery. We can probably take it a step further too and assume that in some sick fetish, either his uncle or his aunt wear the suit itself and watch him as he sleeps. And let's be honest here, it doesn't matter if Oliver was bad or not. They were waiting for something like that to happen. They were waiting for any excuse for Oliver to misbehave, because what they really wanted was what they showed at the end. Any excuse at all to have him in a much more vulnerable and punishable state where they could manipulate him and be far, far more brutal to him. They needed more footage than just him sleeping. They wanted Oliver. That subtle detail of Oliver saying Uncle Charles at the end is also so haunting too.
Uncle Charles?
It just like kind of sticks with you, that muffled sound. There's no more narrator. There's nothing telling us how Oliver thinks. It's all just there, right in front of you, presented in HD. And that is just one of Mr. Friend's video. Here's the next one, which is also pretty brutal, but honestly, I think the first one was way, way worse. Yet, I think most people would argue that the second one could also be really, really bad. The next story is called The Man with No Mouth, and it stars little Timothy Green, as he's trying his best to do his math homework on his new computer, yet time goes by and nothing gets done. Sick fucking Transformers poster though, kid. Damn, that's sick! Timothy hears something odd. A thin, pale figure looks at Timothy in his backyard, waving at him, whistling at him. It's a creepy image, and it's very haunting. But, fuck, Timothy got to do his math homework, so he don't give a fuck. After trying to concentrate on his math homework, Timothy once again hears strange sounds coming from outside his window, and that's when you see this. Though at first the monster seems pretty scary, it turns out that the monster is kind of friendly and fucking smart, apparently.
Huh? My maths problem? Are you trying to help me with my homework?
He helps him out with his math homework, telling him the answer to, well, the question that's had him slumped this whole time. Turns out he's right. So maybe this monster really is friendly, right? Right. Right. The next day comes and hey, wouldn't you know it, Timothy still sucks at math. Just like clockwork though, around the same time, the monster comes back. And this time, Timothy's guard lowered. He lets him in. And then this happens.
And that was the end of Little Timothy.
I like how he flexed on him with that shit. Seriously, you didn't really have to answer his question. He's dead. You know, he's stupid. I get it, but you know, he's dead. Anyways, yeah, no, this one is definitely not as scary, I feel. Definitely didn't make me feel as uncomfortable. Okay, well, okay. A child died. A kid died. His head is completely decapitated. I understand. That's spooky. Whoa. But at the same time, it just doesn't hit as hard. I think the monster is... It's scary, sure, but I've seen so many monster designs that look exactly like that I'm not really affected by it. And the whole moral is pretty obvious, honestly. Don't trust your kids. I mean, don't trust adults. Don't trust your kids either. You don't know who the fuck they're talking to. But don't trust strangers. Even if they seem friendly, you always have to question their motives. You always have to know who exactly you're talking to, and it's safer to speak to people you actually trust before you actually get with someone who you don't really know and has only been friendly for a few moments in your life. And that's the fun thing about these 3 videos. They all have a moral to them. And then the third video, which we're about to see, is about discerning reality from imagination and fiction. This video was called Apple Vision Pro, which, yeah, sure, an Apple Vision Pro in the 80s or 90s, sure, I mean, whatever, let's just mix and match timelines, why not? It's fantasy. This story is about Kevin as he receives his new Apple Vision Pro. I don't know why I don't know, that really bugs me. Why is it an Apple Vision Pro? Anyways, he plays around with it, notices how amazing it is and how wonderful it is, how cool it is, how immersive it all seems as he plays for hours and hours. Suddenly, his bad bitch of a mom comes in and is like, "Wait, haven't you played a little bit too much of that? Maybe you should take it off." And he's like, "Nah, I'm gaming, dude." And she's like, "All right." Hours go by, and his mother once again asks him, politely, to come to the kitchen and have dinner with her. Little does Kevin know, though, that his vision has forever been warped and distorted.
Huh? Mum, is that you? Ah!
Frightened by his mother's visage, or what seemed like his mother, Kevin goes into the kitchen and has a very disturbing idea, one that he shouldn't have had, but now that everything seems different, he doesn't think twice about what he's about to do.
Ah! You're not my mum. Stay away from me.
Kevin does what he thinks is a natural response to what he sees. Unfortunately, when he takes off his mask, reality sets in. His mother is alive, however gravely injured. However, something's off. Everything seems normal, but something's changed.
What have I done? Mum, I didn't mean to. Kevin? I'm so sorry, Mum. Oh, my dear boy Kevin. I think something is terribly wrong with my Vision Pro headset. Ow, Mum, that hurts. Mum! I got you.
Now, this definitely seems a little bit more confusing than the other ones. They seemed a lot more straightforward, albeit creepy, but this one is just creepy and somewhat confusing. At first, it gives off this appearance that the Apple Vision Pro is corrupt and showing him a strange version of reality that maybe he hopped into, but the fact of the matter is that there is no difference from his reality. What he was seeing through the Vision Pro was a distorted, strange version of some sort of creature, perhaps possessing his mother. That seems to be the popular theory anyways. It does seem a little odd that it didn't go straightforward with the whole narrative that the Apple Vision Pro itself is corrupt. But it's likely his mother never really was there. Maybe the Apple Vision Pro actually projected a mother for him. After all, it gave him everything he wanted, as like a sports car and movies and all that stuff. Why wouldn't it project a mother as well? It is possible that he just lives with his father, and he was so sucked into this world, this immersive place where everything seems right, that he completely forgot that he doesn't really have a mother, and the things that he was seeing was just something that was made just for him. Although not everything is perfect, and his mother, well, whatever it was really just a corrupt manifestation of his wishes come true. A sort of monkey paw scenario. But that still adds a bit of confusion. It's like, well, does that mean his mother, or whatever that is, just suddenly exists now? Maybe it really did make a real thing come to life. After all, it is a corrupt Vision Pro. Or it could be that he's just seeing things with his mind, and everything that he's feeling is just an illusion, just like what he's seeing. And the part where his legs are chopped off, well, that could be a result of himself cutting his own legs off because he believes in the vision so much. Again, this is completely a theory, right? It's a very open-ended kind of story, which I do rather like, even though it's a little confusing. I do wish it was a little bit more straightforward, but hey, I'll take it with a grain of salt. Why not? I'll just add my own theories, you know, before film theory does and kind of like ruins it. Now that would be the end of the entire trilogy that Mr. Friend made, but what I omitted to you is that there is a fourth one. I debated whether or not I would talk about it, but as I was watching it right now, I realized that there's something more to this than I initially thought. And so, let's talk about Happy School. This being the shortest video that Mr. Friend made, you might think that there's not a lot of details to explore or a lot of spooky stuff to explore, but if you look deeper into this video and take a closer look at each frame, you might find out that this video has a bit more going on and might be an explanation to what we've been seeing all night. It's a very basic video of two different narratives going on. One showing us a school called Happy School, narrated by our favorite narrator of every single video thus far, but with such a strange script, almost as if the people who made this video don't really know how to talk, and not in a way that's like they don't know English, just like human speak.
Happy School teachers are one big family. The teachers are fully trained and don't bite when requested.
Everything seems wrong, everything's worded differently, and all the while, in the background, we get footage of someone exploring this abandoned school, trying to learn the secrets, and just as Mr. Friend has masterfully shown in the past with his other videos, he's very good at juxtaposition, showing one side that seems happy, friendly, and colorful, while the other side is dark, grim, and very creepy. Of course, everything falls apart with this school's policies holding up such high standards as teachers who don't bite when requested, and no one hiding in the school's floorboards. And if that wasn't a telltale sign that things aren't right, you get these flashing images of words that are misspelled, like family, or things that say hidden or no questions. Even images of kids' faces just disappearing, just like Oliver. Oh, wait a minute. Is that Oliver? Oh, I'm gonna bring that up, don't worry. But in a minute. There's something sinister happening in this school. Something that's not being explained. Yet sometimes you can see that sinister thing. I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into this, but whenever it cuts from the video promo itself to the urban explorer, we see this sort of image of what seems to be a classroom of kids, or maybe a ton of people in some sort of courtroom. Either way, it's always unsettling, and it happens every single time it transitions. At times, it also seems like there's like a distorted face hidden between these transitions. Again, I could be wrong, but it always seems like there's something there. Then we reach the final part, where the urban explorer enters this one room full of, well, take a look. Several bodies of children are lined up at the very bottom of the school. None of them have eyes nor mouths. All of them look exactly like Oliver. Now, this is just a crazy theory, and I'm just going to put it out there. I think this video ties the entire trilogy up and shows that it takes place within the same universe and perhaps even the same town. There's only one mention of a town in this entire trilogy, and that was in the first video, Bad Boy Oliver, in which they state that this story takes place in Meadowshire.
Once upon a time, the town of Meadowshire.
Afterwards, it only mentions the residents of this town. It never mentions the town again, but it doesn't really need to. This is Meadowshire. It always has been, it always will be. And here we have young Oliver, but I thought he was captured, kidnapped. Well, what if this Oliver isn't the same Oliver that we knew? What if the reason that his uncle and aunt wanted him so badly wasn't just for, well, personal reasons, but they also wanted him for some sort of strange experiment, possibly something to do with replicating children. It might seem crazy, sure, but all of these kids are wearing the exact same clothes as Oliver. Hell, they even have the same skin tone and the same haircut as well. They're just missing the eyes and the mouth. Are they robots? Are they actual bodies? Or are they perhaps a creature that has been shown throughout this entire series? Just like the man with no mouth. Very similar in appearance, body shape, and somewhat size. He's a devourer of children. But what if he can also imitate children? He already knows basic math, and he also knows how to whistle. But what if he knew more? What if he knew how to imitate them? What if that's exactly what they were meant to do? Even in the third series, we have the mother, Kevin's mother, who seems to be like a mom or like a human being, but distorted, twisted, imperfect. What if this entire town was inhabited by mimics, people who have been trying to pass on as if they were normal humans, but in reality, they're twisted monsters who want to devour children. And so the monsters of Meadowshire conjure up a scheme. What if they build a school? What if they promote that school? What if they try to get as many kids as possible to attend this school? The teachers don't bite when requested. But they couldn't stop at just this one school. No, they also needed more children, not only to devour, but to study. So that way they could have multiple Olivers traveling to different cities to act like a child, to pretend like he is one of them. And then when they were ready, when they were weak, when they were vulnerable and trusting of Oliver, he would snap and attack them. thus infesting the greater regions around them. More kids to send out there, more Olivers to scout for them, so that way they could have more kids to eat, more people to eat. That's what makes the first short so interesting. With this theory in mind, we could view it both ways. Maybe this is a fake Oliver from out of town, just suddenly traveling by himself and wanting to visit his quote-unquote uncle and aunt, but his uncle and aunt know better, and they try to trap him to study the creature and learn more about their motives and how they function. Or it could be the complete opposite. This was the first Oliver that went missing, and his uncle and aunt are already these mimics, these creatures that pretend to love him. And when he's vulnerable, they finally strike, chain him up, and study his anatomy, making more clones, more mimics, so that they get spread everywhere. I'm not really sure if that's exactly what the creator wanted. Hell, frankly, I'm not even sure if this is the story he wanted to tell, and maybe I'm speculating outside of his normal intent, but regardless, my entire point with this whole series is that it is very well made. The fourth video really ties everything up and really leaves everything to be kind of open-ended, and you can just theorize as much as you want. And the first three are very, very solid. The first one still absolutely my favorite. The third one being a very good close second, and The Man with No Mouth is somewhat weak, but still very good. I highly recommend Mr. Friend if you haven't already checked out his channel. I mean, I'm sure most of you have seen his TikToks, and he makes a ton of them. So please check out his TikTok, check out his YouTube channel, and check him out everywhere he is. All the links will be in the description down below. Seriously, it is a wonderful channel. I seriously hope that he continues with this original trilogy he has and he expands upon the story. But if it just ends there, completely satisfied with that. It is wonderful. It is very well made, and I'm so glad I discovered it. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Love y'all. Bye.